In this presentation, we'll cover the basic concepts of getting a third-person controller, a very simple third-person controller set up inside Playmaker. So I'll get started by creating a capsule, and this capsule I'll just arrange inside my scene. And what I want to do is just add a real quick FSM, and I'll name this state. This will be my moving state, and all the actions are going to happen in this one state. So I'm looking for some input, and the input that I want is a get axis vector. I'll double click, add the get axis vector, and the get axis vector is looking for the horizontal and vertical axes. And that Unity by default is mapped to the arrow keys, or the A, D for the horizontal, and the WS keys for the vertical. And if you have a game controller, it'll map to the primary joystick. So getting this axis vector input, once we get the input, we need to store this inside a variable. So when we look at the action, we can see that the get axis vector has an error, and so it's looking for a vector to store it in. So we need to jump over into the variables tab, and we need to create a vector3 variable, and I'll just call this move direction. And I'll set that as a vector3 variable, and I'll add that. So this will be the variable that stores our get axis vector. So we'll be using the keyboard input to get some input from the user. We'll store that input in this new variable that we just created. And currently this thing isn't going to move, but I can debug this. I have the debug turned on. And so if I hit the play button, and I play around with the arrow keys or the AWSD keys, you can see that I get some user input here. Okay, I'm getting a positive or negative 1 depending on which axis that I press on. So I'll jump back into Playmaker. I'll select my moving state. The next thing I need to do is I need to go into the character category, and I'm looking for a controller simple move. And I'll just give that a double click, and you can see here that I'm getting a little bit of an error. It says the game object requires a character controller, so I have two choices here. I can go up to Components, Physics, and add the character controller, or Playmaker makes it very easy for me. I can just click on that error, and it resolves that error for me. And it resolves that error by adding the character controller to the capsule. So I have one other thing that I need to do. I have the game object is being used as the owner. That's the capsule. That's good. And it's moving according to a vector, which is the variable vector that we're storing our user input from. So I'll just choose that same vector, that's the vector3 that's being used here in the get axis vector. And I'll just hit the play button and see what I have. So my character controller is inside the scene. When I press the vertical or the W key, you can see that my character moves forward. If I hold down the A key, I'm moving to the left, and the D will move to the right. It's moving very slow. And I'll just turn off my play button here, and I'll go back into the state, the moving state. And I have a couple of different choices. I could play with the multiplier value, but in the case of the controller simple move, I also have this speed value. And if I just bump up this speed, I'll bump it up to 10. And basically it's taking this number and being multiplied by whatever the multiplier is. Or actually, it's taking the user input, horizontal or vertical, multiplying it according to the multiplier, and then multiplying that value to the speed. So whether we use the multiplier or the speed in this case, it doesn't really matter, but now I can start to move much quicker.